This video is all about solo Vesper's host, particularly on Hunter and the final encounter here, the Puppeteer boss. Since this dungeon came out, there's been a lot of people talking about its difficulty, lots of ads, lots of mechanics, quite hard to survive during damage phase and deal a lot of damage, and how in particular it's hardest on Hunter. When Datto released his guide for Solo Flawless, where usually he covers all three classes with different builds that are quite safe and evergreen that don't use artifact mods, he called the title of that video, if you're going to solo Vesper's host, don't do it on Hunter. And that's what I've been struggling with as a Hunter main for the last month, trying to improve my strats and my builds to make it more consistent and also be able to do good damage. I've already got a 2-phase damage strat for the Servitor boss that I'm really happy with, and I covered that in a separate video if you check my channel if you're interested in that. But for the Puppeteer, it's taken me a little bit of time to work on and improve until I got to a point where I'm really happy with it. And I've come up with a strat that improves survivability at damage phase massively. And damage isn't too bad either. And on average phase, I was getting about 20% or just over 20%, so that's a 5 phase. And on my best phase ever using this build, I got almost 25%. So potentially a 4 phase is possible too. So why am I making this video in isolation instead of showing you my successful solo flawless? Well, unfortunately, because I've only come up with this build in the last week, I'm actually moving house tomorrow, and I've just been so busy packing. I've only really been able to throw a couple of attempts during the week and haven't quite put it together yet. But just before I pack up my computer, I wanted to show you the potential of this because I know lots of people are trying this, lots of people are struggling with this, and I don't think anyone else is using this build. I just wanted to put it out there and hopefully it would help someone. So I'm just going to go over the basics of the build really quickly and then show you an example phase. Now, this all hinges on Mothkeeper's wraps. I'm a big fan of Mothkeeper's wraps already. If you've seen other videos on my channel, one of my biggest ones was when it first came out. I did lots of testing with Mothkeepers to see all the interactions, but I promise you this isn't a meme. Basically, the problem with the damage phase that people are finding is more pronounced on Hunters is because it's such a long damage phase and there aren't like red bars running around for you to extend restoration if you're on a solar build, for example, or proc lots of healing effects like you can easily on Titan and Warlock. Survivability is really tough. But with Mothkeeper's wraps, because when you throw the moth down, you can get the Void Moth for an overshield, it's effectively like temporary hit points. And with this build, I'm able to spam it over and over and over. So I almost constantly have an overshield up, effectively healing me. It's like having mini healing grenades that I'm constantly slamming down. And that's also why I'm on Strand, pretty much entirely for Thread of Generation. Dealing damage generates grenade energy. Now, on my DPS build, I do have 100 discipline, so the grenade cooldown is already as fast as possible. But Thread of Generation, when you deal damage, it generates grenade energy. And because I'm doing DPS against the boss, it just recharges the moths really, really quickly. And because of Widow's Silk giving you an additional grenade charge, and Mothkeeper's Wraps gives you 2 by default, you actually get 3 charges on Strand 2. Welling Maelstrom is also quite handy for ad clear, and because I'm throwing the moths down so often, Thread of Ascent is proccing, reloading my heavy weapon, so that improves DPS further. So now I'm going to show you an example phase. I just do this because it's bonus damage, you might as well. Right, let's make an orb so I can get Woven Mail. Attrition Orbs works well for that. And then kill an enemy, there's a Tangle, and we're ready for damage. So this loadout is just with my surges for the chill inhibitor with bait and switch. And you see how much overshield I'm getting from this. It's getting ready to reproc bait. There we go. Now keep slamming the moths down. And because I'm dealing damage and I'm on Strand, he's not debuffed, which is annoying. Because I'm on Strand and I'm dealing damage, the moths are charging very fast. Take a second just to deal with some of these. The nuke's already up, the door's about to open. Let's just do this for a bit of overshield. Then I swap to this, which has arc surges on instead. Now I need to get another orb. There's one. Great, and then I can just slam these. And because I'm dealing constant damage with the Exterius, that's also generating Void Moths for me to build up this overshield. Do you see what I'm talking about? Like, it's basically temporary hit points. Alright, I'm going to go a bit further back. And because I'm dealing damage, I'm generating loads of moths. Missed that melee, that's annoying. Get out of the lightning. Get another orb. And I mean that, I was saying it's a 5 phase basically, but that's nearly 25%. And while I'm talking about it and I've got half concentration, I had overshield up almost the entire time. The moths also help to clear the puppet ads that are around you, as well as spawning orbs for more healing, woven mail, and armor charge. Like, I'm really, really happy with this build, and I'm just really annoyed that I now have to pack up my PCs and move house before I have a chance to put the solo flawless together. But that'll come in time. I just wanted to get this video done now just to show everyone and hopefully help people get their clear if they're still struggling on this encounter with different builds. Oh, and one final note that I just remembered to say after I'd stopped recording. This isn't even with Radiant. Because I'm having to be on Strand for Thread of Generation to get the moths back so fast, there's no way of me having Radiant, which normally only comes from being on Solar or Prismatic from the Radiant melees. And I'm not even using Super. All the damage is just coming from my Heavy and the Exterius. I've got 4 loadouts. I'll talk you through them as I swap. Starting with Multimac with Attrition Orbs for extra orbs, extra healing. Exterius, that synergizes well with Mothkeepers. And a Versus Chill with Bait and Switch. Heavy-handed Firepower and Reaper for orb generation. Recuperation for healing. Special finisher so I can store armor charge. Just killing things with Exterius, that'll make Void Moths for me for Overshield. Also, Tangles, worth breaking them just so that Whirling Maelstroms come out for a bit of free ad clear. Right, Scanner's died already, which is great. Okay, it's 4. Might as well throw some of these down to get some overshields. So I'm going to swap to this, which is the same mods, but Citarachne. That's because when you swap from Mothkeepers to a normal grenade, you lose all your grenade charge. That's because Mothkeepers has the fastest grenade charge in the game, so it's to stop you exploiting that, I think, in PvP. Thankfully, when you go back from a normal grenade to Mothkeepers, you keep all the charges, because the opposite is true. Now, the reason I take a Tangle down there is just so that it's dealing damage in the background. That'll help charge the grapple quicker because of the fragment that generates grenade energy when you deal damage. Oh, you're stood right where I normally like to be in this room. All right. Alright, nice. Got lucky and no irradiated ones came anywhere near me. And because I went into the bay holding scanner, that Vandal's respawned, but I just go back over and get it. Not a huge fan of taking that much damage, but it's fine. That's one of the reasons why I did the grapple, just to enter the room there, because then I would have woven mail for the run over to that bank. And then shoot the last one when I'm right next to the bank I want to deposit in. That's why I bank the specific augments in the specific terminals like that. Okay, it's not that one. Not that one. Oh, please don't kill me. Now, you might think that's not a good example of a very safe and survivable build. You might have a point. However, I'm also half paying attention because I'm thinking about things to say, to talk about the build. If I was more focused in on this, I'd have used my grapple earlier because I had 2 charges to get woven mail, been a bit more careful with my positioning. You know, I'm trying to do this as quick as possible, really, to get through it, to show you the DPS phase. Now I'm going to go back onto the Mothkeeper's build just because I want the 3rd Moth charge to spawn. To fill up. You know what I mean. Because you only get 2 grapples, but you can get 3 Moths. Might as well get that. This will help charge it quicker. And then I'm going over here. This is to try to prevent a soft lock. Because I lose the augment when I go into bank the nuke. The Vandal respawns here, and I have had it before where after damage phase, the Vandal doesn't respawn up here anymore. And that's very annoying when that happens. Because it can softlock it entirely if it's like a suppressor Vandal, for example, so then you can't kill the puppets. Or for me, scanner didn't spawn, so I had to guess what number it was. And I guessed wrong. That lost me a solo flawless run. Now for the damage phase, I'm actually just going to go back and get another tangle. So for now, I'll just quickly show you each of the loadouts. Like this, so you can see everything that's on them. If I have time, I will try and add the dim link in the description as well, but that will come later. So this is just the one with Citarachnes. This is the first damage loadout. And this is the second damage loadout. They're basically very similar, it's just a few mod differences. Oh yeah, for damage I tend to put double arc resistance and sniper, just because most of the hits I'm going to be taking are from a distance. You don't really need to worry about the lightning, because if you take damage from the lightning, you're probably dead in one hit anyway.